Wow. Hi, Shauna.
Hi, Mary. How's it going?
Good. Just want to make sure you could hear me.
Yeah.
And Amanda's there. Hello.
Yeah.
I guess we still need to wait for Bryce and Nathan before we have a quorum. I see the Wheelers and the Osecs are with us. Just so you know, from 6:30 to 7 is just our work meeting where we as the Planning Commission talk about, what's on the agenda and any other things. So we won't be involving you people until after the meeting formally starts at 7 o'clock. Okay? Looks like Nate's here, huh? Yeah. Hi, Nathan.
Guess I better unmute. Hello.
Unmute. Amanda, you could unmute too.
Okay.
Thank you. Shauna, did you hear from Bryce, whether he was coming or not?
I haven't heard from Bryce about not coming.
Okay. I sent out a text, but I didn't get a response from him whether he was coming or not.
I just messaged him. I'll see if he responds.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hey, there's Bryce.
Sorry, I'm
Welcome.
late.
Hey, Bryce.
RBW.
Oh, I guess I should change that.
It's okay. Now we know who you are.
Okay. You weren't gonna let me in, were you?
No. Shauna would have, she knows you.
That probably wouldn't be such a bad thing.
No, I disagree.
Is everybody else on?
Yep. All of the planning commissioners are here, so we'll go ahead and start at 6:33. Did you all have a chance to read through the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so I need a volunteer for a pledge. No, we're not gonna do a pledge, sorry. A volunteer for a reverence, please. Anyone?
I'll do it.
Thanks, Bryce. Okay, so we've got 3 sets of minutes to approve. Hopefully you've had a chance to read through them if you were participants in each of those meetings. I don't know if you noticed anything that drastically needed to be changed. Or if not, we can move forward with that. Then part of our city business, we'll talk about our meeting schedule for next year, which is basically the second Thursday of every month. We may, or when we get closer to Veterans Day in November, we may move that a day or a week, move it up to Wednesday. Because if we move it back the following Thursday, then it overlaps with city council. So, but we'll discuss that in like September or something like that. August or September. Unless you guys don't, I mean, personally, I don't see a problem with having it on Veterans Day other than the city office is closed that day. So just keep that in mind. We'll discuss it. We've got a public hearing for a final approval for a 1-lot subdivision for Osiek. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And we have a final approval for the Wheeler subdivision, which is also a 1-lot subdivision. Did you guys have a chance to read through the memos on those?
Yes.
Did. I had a question. I don't know, maybe Shauna, maybe you can clarify, just on the Osiek subdivision. There were a couple of things on there, item number 7 and number 8 and number 11.
Amanda, I can clarify those.
Okay.
So they were kind of really minor things, and they've since been corrected. And I just did not want to produce another memo, and so we have verified that they're all taken care of. So.
Okay. The only reason I asked is, there's that note on there. Each comment, question, or correction on this memorandum must be responded to in writing, either on revised plans or in other typewritten correspondence from the applicant or both.
And they
Any
were.
comment? Okay, I just didn't see anything in our packet that they were responded to in writing. So that's why I wondered if we had something.
No, because I haven't been available to put another memo together, but we were able to do a review, and they actually sent written comments back for those. So, and
Okay.
the plat. So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that.
Yep.
The one item on 06 and also on the Wheeler 1-lot subdivision is, of course, the escrow for curb, gutter, and sidewalk. And, it's been that is our standard procedure, even on a 1-lot subdivision. We don't require it to be installed, but we do require it to be escrowed. And that money is set aside for 10 years, I believe it is. And then if there's no development that goes on around it, then it's refunded back to the developer. So those, on both of those subdivisions, that's the one condition that we would probably have to attach to it before we refer it to city council. Did you see anything else on there?
No, that's what I noticed as well. I mean, it looks like there probably won't, it'd be a far stretch if curb and gutter ever went there, but just to be consistent with our ordinance, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Well, it is our ordinance and it's what we require with all with all development, so. Okay,
In some weird cases, you know, we as a staff will make a recommendation in favor, but I think when you see my presentation, you'll see that in both cases, we recommend escrow. So,
okay. Okay, so that's 06 and Wheelers. Item 7 on our city business tonight is not a public hearing. It is just, it's coming back to us as a planning commission because they're wanting to change plans that previously had been approved. So Silver Saddles is wanting to change their drainage plan to, they're proposing that the lots drain back to back to the center, like 2 lots that meet back to back. They drain this way and then are collected into a pipe and is taken out to the storm drain system. That isn't consistent with anything we've done in the past. Our public works director is adamantly against it, thinking that it's it's just not favorable, and it only down the road would cause the city problems. It might work good for the developer, but for the city to then have to be able to maintain it if something does block it would be impossible to do.
I think it'll cause those homeowners problems too.
I think, yeah, and if it's not the original homeowner, it may be, you know, the second one who has now a mature tree that's grown, the roots have grown into that pipe, blocked it up, and people upstream then get flooded because the water can't go downstream. And then they come to the city and say, hey, I'm getting flooded. What's the deal? And then the city, you know, when we finally buy off on these subdivisions, they're ours. And we got to take care of them. And so, you know, it just seems like we're looking for trouble by looking at that type of a drainage system. So if you read the details of our public works director, he's very strongly opposed to this. And I think he has very valid reasons.
So, yeah, so he said he would join in the call so you could ask him questions, because he wrote the memo, and all I'm going to do in that particular case is just put up the graphic that was the small graphics at the end of his memo, just so you can kind of see what you're addressing. But yeah, he did say he would come on if you had questions when we got to that
Okay,
point.
Good.
So he's
Mary, what is driving this? Is this the developer just seeing dollar signs and basically saying they don't want to do as it is approved because it's costing too much money? Is that what's driving it?
well, it was originally, if I understand it right, it was originally approved for one developer, and it's changed hands, it's changed ownerships. And now the new developer is saying, hey, I don't want to bring in all this fill into these lots to bring them up to street level, because they had to bring the street grade up high enough to be able to accommodate all of the underground
Okay.
work that needs to be done. And in order to do that, so you're not having negative slope lots, they've all got to be filled and brought up to grade. Well, his proposal is to let them slope negative to the back and have a collection point and a drainage along property lines on 2 properties that butt back to back, and then collect it and drain it out to the street there. But the way he's proposing is significantly less costly than bringing in fill.
Yeah, as I was reading Jared's comments, he listed 4 scenarios in there, which are all highly likely to happen over time. And that
Yes.
I could probably think of 50 more. So I'm just curious what Steve will say, what they let him, speak what he thinks. But yeah, I don't think it's a great plan. I don't think it's a good plan at all. And I think we need to, protect those future homeowners from any issues
Well,
in the future.
yeah, I agree. And then, like you say, it might not be the original homeowner that has any problems, but maybe number 2 or number 3 down the road, when you sell or resell, they don't know even that this drain exists. and they're gonna maybe fill over it. They don't want their backyard to slope negative, so they'll bring in fill, cover it up. They won't have a catch basin. I mean, there's so many things, and the city has no control over it. Nor do we have access to go in there and fix the problem once they put up landscaping and fences and all of those things. There's just no way that we can control that and keep it nice for the homeowner. And that's really what we want to do. We're looking at the future of these developments and how not developer number one, and maybe not even homeowner number one, but number two or number three. How are they going to enjoy living in their home when every spring they've got a pond in their backyard?
This was, you said it's changed owners. It is Nelson Homes currently, correct?
That's who purchased it.
That's who purchased it. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
It was
And I
originally,
think where, sorry.
originally Kevin Ivins and Larry Daly were the original, so.
They were
And
the original.
Kevin was the one that has the water, basically the drainage as it stands now. That's where it got approved, and then Nelson bought it and it was already approved that way, correct?
That's correct. I don't know if it's been totally purchased outright, but they're certainly interested but they can clarify that for you. But yeah, we went through that with Kevin Ivins and got that approval before we would come to the planning commission, got that so that it worked the way that staff wanted it. That's the way it got approved, so.
I think where that was the original criteria for that approval, all of those conditions still apply. So I feel like we should stay consistent with what we already said we were going to do.
Right, and the reason that they're back at the planning commission is because they're asking for a change from the original approval. Because, we've kind of modified our procedure. If a developer's wanting a change in the plans that have been approved, it's got to come back through the planning commission.
So sorry, Mary, go ahead.
I'd just say as if it were a new proposal.
So I assume if we decline the amendment, does it go to city council or does it end with us?
Well, we wouldn't recommend it to city council for approval.
So, but would it still go to city council though?
Would they have an opportunity to appeal our choice? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
To
Mhm.
appeal our decision?
That's,
Yeah. So
Is that-
that's correct. So you're still giving a recommendation.
Okay.
So we would recommend to city council that it not be approved.
Okay.
Then it goes to city council and then they rule on it. So, and then the last item on our agenda as far as is also an amendment of the final plan updated, where we had these 9-lot subdivisions and we had mandated a temporary turnaround, which interferes with the 2 lots at the end of the street. Since then, the developer has received a letter from Kevin Ivins, the owner of the adjacent property to the west, who has put in writing that he agrees to let that turnaround overlap onto his property. So it doesn't have to be built into the front yards of those 2 end lots on the end of that street. So that stub street, then the temporary turnaround is over onto the next property, which,
I'll show you the 2 different plats when it comes up so you can
Yeah.
see the difference. So, yeah,
So we do have a revised plat on that then?
I do. Uh-huh.
Okay,
And-
all right.
Yep.
Sometimes the memo says one thing and then I'm not sure if we've got it taken care of or not. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That was kind of in the same ballpark, just not available to generate a simple memo for one thing. So figured we'd just
Right.
present it tonight. So,
so the revised final plat is needed for the relocation and Tracy has that. So that's what's on our agenda. And then we will have some citizen comments. And I believe at that point, Shauna has some letters that have been written that because they have been written as citizen comments to Planning Commission, she will read those into the meeting minutes, and then we may or may not have comment on those. So that's kind of how our meeting should go. Anybody have any other ideas or suggestions?
Not in regards to this, but today's the last day to get the surveys in, right? For the
Right.
open. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm gonna mention this again in when it's public meetings. But I just got an email like at 5:06 that said we got 688 responses on our survey, which we have 2,880 households. That represents 23.8% of households responding. Now, some households may have responded twice, which is fine, but still that represents a good 23%. That's a higher percentage than what we get when people vote.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
when you have a public election, we don't get 25% turnout. So I'm very pleased with the response we got. We have, a population of just over 9,000, but that counts children and everything. But of the 2,800 households that we have here in Hooper, to get a 23% response, I think is pretty darn good. So now we need to take all that information and analyze it and use it and apply it as we move forward with this new general plan. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, that's great.
I also wanted to point out, when we had the open house on December 1st, we had about 25 people attend it, which I was hoping would be more, but I think the time is awkward. I think 5:30 is a hard time for people to set aside to be at a Zoom meeting when you're in the middle of fixing dinner and just getting home from work and all of those kind of things. So I'm going to see if we can't push that next open house back at least to 6 or 6:30.
I agree, 100%.
A little better. I think the 5:30 was a little hard. But they also said, I found a couple statistics quite interesting. A few months ago, we talked about Hooper there was an article out there somewhere that said Hooper is one of the richest towns in Utah. Do you guys remember that when they were
Yeah.
talking?
Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
have that.
So Alex Roy, who was part of the WFRC, Wasatch Front Regional Council, he gave us some numbers and he said the median income for Utah is $68,374. The median income for Hooper, $100,500. Now, personally, I don't know where all that money's going because I'm not making it. But that's what the statistics are showing. And secondly, the median value of homes statewide was $256,700, and the median value in Hooper, $305,200. And as an appraiser, I've been out of the business 4 years. 4 years ago, I couldn't find a home in Hooper that sold for $400,000 anywhere. Couldn't find one. Because I had people telling me, well, I need to know how much this is worth. I want to sell it for $4. Well, there's nothing out here selling for $4. And now that's the median price is $306. So in 4 years, things have dramatically changed. But I just thought those were interesting numbers for us to be aware of and work with. Our average household size in Utah is 3.13. And in Hooper itself, it's 3.46. So we're a little bit above average in our household size as well. So apparently we're known for larger families, higher income, and expensive houses. Go figure.
Where did we rank on that, Mary? You know where we were on that? Or we were just one of the top?
As far as what?
Just the ranking, is it the income average? We're not, I assume Alpine and American Fork is higher.
Oh, I don't know where we ranked.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
just, the median value for all of Utah was 256.
okay.
And the median value for Hooper itself was 305. Obviously, we have a much smaller database, you
Right.
know, but. And the
Well, I
same,
think that, oh, sorry, Mary, I didn't mean to cut you off.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that article talking about Hooper being the richest place to live took into consideration a number of different factors, the amount of unemployment, some other things too. It wasn't solely based on income. So
Just
there were a
open
lot of things.
space, nice area, yeah.
Yeah, I think they had a few different things that contributed to that classification. So
Yeah. Well, and we have 1.3 jobs per household, which is pretty low.
You know, Mary, when we first incorporated and I started being involved in some of the planning things, specifically for some utility work and things, I remember the households were 3.89 people per household. So we've actually down a little bit from 20 years ago. Families are a little bit smaller, you know,
Well, that's
apparently.
interesting.
Still is, you know, we're still larger than the state average, it sounds like. So, yeah.
Well, that's good to know. That's interesting, Tracy. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. So anyway,
Mary, I also noticed I got an email on the 14th. There's a Zoom call. It looked like Amanda was in charge of it. And then on the,
transportation.
no, it wasn't land use. And then one on the 15th on economic development. Did you guys get that email?
I got it. And I was a little concerned. Some of the people that have reached out about wanting to be on some of those focus groups, when I had talked to them last, I don't think that they had received any information about that. I texted a couple of them today and I'm waiting to hear back, but I think we need to make sure we're giving people enough time that they can set aside their schedule so that they can actually participate in those, especially where it's this time of year and things are a little bit more busy. I know Fremont has a choir concert that night, and there's some other things that are going on, at least on the one for my meeting on the 14th. I'm not sure the rest of the week, but.
Good point.
I guess I'm not aware of the one that they set up for you, Amanda.
Oh, it was on the 14th for Amanda.
Our first
Yeah.
focus group takes place on December 14th. Is that for land use?
Yeah, that's land use and housing.
Okay. Monday, December 14th, Amanda, you're head of that land use and housing, and Tuesday, December 15th, that's you, Bryce, commercial development. And
What
Wednesday, the
time was it?
16th.
What time?
Pardon?
Did it start? Since you have it up, what time does it start again?
It says from 5 to 6.
That's a tough time. Like you.
Terrible.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to these guys and tell them starting all these at 5 o'clock is just not working for us.
Yeah.
It needs to be 7. Don't you? Do you think
I
7
agree.
is a better time?
Yeah.
So it's after the dinner time and after when people are just getting home from work. I know why WFRC wants it at 5 is because they can just,
They're all single.
they can just keep on working and not have they're already up and working and they stop WFRC stuff and then start Hooper stuff.
Yeah.
So
Are you going to reach out to them?
I will reach out to her tomorrow.
You let us know kind of what they decide or what.
And Amanda, did you say that you hadn't heard, a lot of your people on the advisory group had not been notified?
Not the last that I heard. I messaged them again today, and so I'm waiting to hear back. But I don't think a lot of people have heard. And I had talked to Cindy Cox. I know there were some people that had wanted to participate that hadn't heard, that had talked to her and were wondering too. So.
Okay. All right. I'll get on the phone with them tomorrow to Maddie and call her and we'll sort this out. Okay.
For some of those people that had reached out for the focus groups, if you wouldn't mind asking how they registered to be in a focus group, because that might help pinpoint who's not being contacted. So if
Okay.
it was done separately before the survey went out, maybe they've not inputted those names correctly, so let them know that. Or if it's names that were inputted in the survey process, maybe those aren't coming through on the online survey. So if you can pinpoint how they contacted you to be on a focus group, that might help them know where that information is, so we can get everybody who maybe got missed back onto that list. And then also just a reminder, as we move into focus groups, they are small individual meetings, so we need to make sure we don't have a quorum.
Okay. I know for the individuals that had asked to be on the focus group that I'm doing, I had given their information directly to Maddie. And so I know she has it from that, but I'm not sure with some of the others, so.
Okay. All right, well, we got about 2 minutes and then we'll officially start this public meeting. Any words of wisdom from anybody? Okay.
You know, Mary, I was just going to mention, this kind of came and went with a whimper, but maybe because of COVID, but it was November of 2000 when the vote passed to incorporate as a community. And so just last month, we passed a 20-year mark for that. So don't know how many
Yeah.
people realize that. So,
20 years.
yep.
Yeah. I remember it happening, that's for sure. And it seems like we're trying to build a new city all over again right now. At least make sure that it grows in a good direction. Okay, well, it is 7 o'clock. And so we are going to call our Planning Commission to order. We'd like to welcome everyone who's out there in technical land. We can only see a few of you who have your video turned on. And we appreciate everyone who's listening. I'm Mary Simpson. I'm the Commissioner Chair this year. And I appreciate everybody being here. We're going to open our meeting with a reverence by Commissioner Wilcox. Would you do that for us, please?
Sure. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for the opportunity to live in this wonderful community and enjoy the freedoms that we have. And we ask that Thou would continue to watch over us and preserve our great lands. And we thank Thee for those who serve our country in a righteous manner. And we pray that this meeting will be productive for everyone, and especially those who live here and those who will live here in the future. And these blessings and favors we ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. We will not have a pledge of allegiance because we do not have a flag available in every person's home. So we're foregoing the pledge. The first item on our agenda is an approval of the minutes. We've had 3 meetings in the last 30 days. So the first minutes to be approved are those of the general plan work session that we held on October 21st. That was held in the city offices and was attended by several of the commissioners and city councilmen and the mayor and some public as well. Commissioners, have you had a chance to read those minutes? And do you
Yep.
find anything that needs to be altered? No?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, then let's entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll motion that we approve the minutes for the general plan work session, October 21st, 2020.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Commissioner Prince and a second from Commissioner Wilcox to approve the minutes from the general plan work session on October 21st. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Then we had the planning commission, actual planning commission meeting on November 12th. That was also held at the city offices. Did anyone see any reason to make any changes to those? No?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, then we'll also take a motion to approve those minutes. Somebody?
Okay, I'll motion that too. I motion that we approve the minutes for the planning commission meeting November 12th, 2020.
And a second?
I wasn't there, so Nate probably have to do it. I don't know if that
Wasn't
matters.
there either.
You weren't there either?
No.
There, can we?
Wasn't it just the two of us, Nate, with Mary? on
Oh,
that
it
one?
was. Yes, you're right. I was at that one. It was the last one. Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you, Nate, because it says right here you were there.
Yes, I was there at that one.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
And Commissioner Wilcox is abstaining because he wasn't there. Thank you. That motion also passes. The third meeting was from December 1st, which was actually our open house that was held by Zoom, via Zoom, sorry. Those present were, we had a councilman and some committee members and commissioners and also some public. That was, I think it was attended by about 27, 28 people, something like that. And that was also recorded and it's available on YouTube for anyone who wants to go back and look at it or listen to it. So if we don't see any reason to modify that one, I would also entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll motion that we approve the planning commission meetings minutes for December 1st, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve those meetings as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that also passes. Thank you, commissioners, appreciate that. Okay, now on to city business. This is a public hearing. Oh, first thing we're going to do, this is not a public hearing, is approve our meeting schedule for next year, for calendar year 2021. It's proposed that all planning commission meetings be held on the second Thursday of each month. I don't believe there's any conflicts other than it's a possibility that the November meeting may be rescheduled if it conflicts with, if we find a conflict with Veterans Day. So if anyone has any comments on that or any feelings one way or the other, if not, then let's make a motion to approve those.
I'll motion we approve the dates for 2021, the meeting schedule for the second Thursday of every month.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Platt and a second from Commissioner Wilcox. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, now we do have a public hearing, which is the final approval for a one-lot subdivision for Clint Osick. It's calling it the Osick subdivision. It is a final approval. Tracy, do you have a presentation for us at all?
I do.
All right, we'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you. Hey, Shauna, are you able to send Jared the link to the meeting, or Jared the link to the meeting from where you are?
You're muted, Shauna.
He just texted me, said he couldn't get on, so didn't have the link, so.
Yeah, sorry, I'll do that. Sorry, bear with me. I've got 2 screens and 2 logins and, okay, so I'll get that to him.
Oh, okay. All right, so this presentation is for the Osik subdivision, final plat approval. As a 1-lot subdivision, it's a minor subdivision, so it gets a final plat approval on the first review, if you like everything that's here. What you're seeing here is an aerial view of 1 lot and a large remainder parcel, all of it in the city's R1 zone, located near the intersection of 6700 West and 5500 South. So there is 1 lot that will become a building lot through the process, and then everything else you see there is the large remainder parcel that will not be approved for development or building at this time. So that's what it looks like in aerial view. This is the plat that has been reviewed by the staff and their our city surveyor, and we've been able to get everything worked out. And so the lot that's being considered, I highlighted in blue right there, and then everything else you see is that large remainder parcel. So here's the final plat review comments from the staff. As I said, all revisions and corrections to the final plat have been made. Will serve letters have been obtained, been received by the city from Hooper Water Improvement District, Hooper Irrigation Company, the Weber Fire District, Rocky Mountain Power and Dominion Energy, all the entities that we typically deal with. This lot is actually going to be served by a septic system, and the Weber Morgan Health Department has provided a septic system feasibility letter, and that represents their approval for a septic system to be designed and constructed. The actual septic permit follows once they've received the approved design, and that's beyond what we do, because before they can design, they have to have certain things in place. One of them being this approval for the subdivision. So all the other items in our public works and engineering memos, staff memos are completed. You talked in the pre-meeting about our ordinance requirements for curb, gutter, and sidewalk for all subdivisions. And in this particular case, the staff is recommending escrow for that as opposed to building it. And I think you realize that probably makes sense. And then the last item that I included here on the notes that we always look at when there's a situation where there's a new residential lot adjacent to ground that's still going to be agricultural by nature. There's a separation in uses there. Our ordinance requires a land use separation fence, but it gives the council the ability, based upon a recommendation from the Planning Commission, to just to disregard that if the adjacent larger property being farmed is owned by the immediate family. And I'm pretty sure that's the case here. And so you can decide what you want to do relative to recommending to the city council any issue with land use separation fence. But in the past, that's typically been waived when the adjacent property is still owned by family. And even some of the residential lot sometimes is still kept in as part of the cultivated farmed area, without the fence in place. So that's really all I have to say about this. Pretty straightforward. So.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that presentation. Do we have a representative here from the Osik to represent the Osik subdivision?
We do. This is Clinton Linda Osik.
Hello. Will you give us your name and address, please?
Yeah, it's Clinton and Linda Osik, and our current address is 5648 South, 6950 West in Hooper.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Osik? I have one question. What size is this lot one?
I believe it's going to be 1.361.
1.36 acres?
Yes, ma'am. And the plan is to leave the remaining acreage into the alfalfa field like it is now. So even though the lot extends into the field will actually come up to where that retaining wall is.
You brought in all that rock and build that up a little bit, leveled it out?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice.
It's a nice
Commissioners, do you have any
lot.
questions?
I drove past it. It looks nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like
Hey, hi Clint, how are you? I don't know if you remember, we used to walk home from the bus stop together when we were in junior high school.
Oh, hello.
They did work with Public Works beforehand and actually got the ditch piped in front of their place. And so that did not have to happen as part of this process. It was already done, so.
And there is a, is it a 30-foot right of way along the north boundary?
Yeah, yes, ma'am, that's correct. That's so that we can access my father's field right there.
So you can get to it off of 6,700 instead of 55?
Yes, ma'am.
The concrete ditch is there along 5,500.
Yeah,
So,
I assume that's the way you've always got into the field is off of 67, huh?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
I think the only issue probably we have to discuss is that land use separation fence, which makes sense to me not to have them put it in.
I agree, and they provided a letter on that, so I think we're good.
Yeah. We have a letter from the property owner next door, or the adjacent property owner. And I know that we have done that in the past when you've got family members doing a one lot subdivision adjacent to, like father and son kind of situation, similar to this one. That we waived the land use separation fence. So. Okay. Is there anyone else listening in tonight who would like to make public comment regarding this request, since this is a public hearing? If you do, unmute your microphone and give us your name.
I did have one public comment that was emailed in for the Ozick subdivision. I'll go ahead and read that just to the record. This is from Brian Dalton, and it reads, "To whom it may concern, concerning the request for the Ozick subdivision, we nearby property owners declare that we have no objections to this development. Thank you for the inquiry."
Okay. So the neighbors are all in favor, or at least it sounds like it, huh?
I believe so.
Okay. Commissioners, if you have no more questions, thank you, Mr. Osick. We appreciate your time. I'll bring it back to the commission. Do we have any discussion?
Only concerns I had were those items in the memo, and Tracy said those have all been taken care of, so.
They have been, yes.
Okay. All right. Then I would entertain a motion regarding this request for this one lot subdivision. This is a final plat review, so we would recommend it to City Council for final approval.
I'll recommend for final approval, the OCX subdivision, one lot, 5526 south, 66 or 6700 west. And with the notation to disregard the land use separation fence. And then as well as Tracy recommended, the money gets escrowed for curb and gutter.
I'll
Okay,
second that.
so we have a motion from Commissioner Platt and a second from Commissioner Prince. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, this will pass. Thank you, O6. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, the second item on our public hearing tonight is a final approval also for a one lot subdivision for the Wheelers. And looks like Tracy has a presentation for us on this one.
I do. Yeah, so the Wheeler subdivision, also a minor subdivision. So this will be your opportunity to review it. This is one lot in the R2 zone, located in the old city block, about 6145 west along 5700 south. There happens to be a lot space between some existing homes that now is being proposed as a subdivision, so for a building lot. And so I've highlighted that. Whenever I do this, I just make it clear that I draw this in by hand, so it's not necessarily intended to be represented the exact way this sits on the ground. So that's why we have the plat. And so this is the plat showing the boundary of the subdivision. Very, very straightforward. The thing that's unique about this is there is an irrigation ditch along this west side, and as part of our ordinance, they're required to pipe that. So they are going to leave a 15-foot private irrigation easement so that that can be accessed. And we'll talk about the other concern we had, which has also been handled nicely as part of this subdivision. So again, all the revisions and corrections to the final plat have been made. We have all the will serve letters from the regular entities. We don't need the Weaver Morgan Health Department here because they'll be able to connect to the vacuum sewer system. It's out in 5700 west, or excuse me, south. All the items from our memos have been addressed. The one item that Jared, our Public Works Director, was concerned about was access to the irrigation head gates, which are part of a new structure going in with that pipeline. And so we asked the Wheelers to their neighbors and make sure the neighbors understood what was happening, and they all came back with a signed letter, said that they're perfectly fine accessing their head by accessing through this property. So that was the important thing to get in the file. And then again, item.
Tracy, excuse me, will those letters be retained on file?
Yeah, they're in the file. Yes.
Okay.
They're there.
So they're public record. Thank you.
And then the final thing again, curb gutter and sidewalk. They actually had their engineer draw things up and everything in case, but still in this particular case, escrow recommended by the city staff right in this location. It's kind of right in the middle of the block, and we don't anticipate much happening in the neighborhood in the immediate future. So, but just to be fair, and because it says that the ordinance requires it, we still recommend the city receive escrowed funds for those improvements. So.
Because it is developed on both sides of them already, correct?
Developed, you mean?
Well, yeah, there's homes already built on both sides of them.
There's homes
Yeah.
on both sides.
So this is just kind of a
a
orphan
filler.
lot that they're developing.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Do we have the Wheelers here as a representative for this subdivision? I think I saw them earlier.
We're both here. It's Ashley and Ryan Wheeler,
Hello, and your address?
5874 South, 5900 West.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions for the Wheelers? Anyone?
It's pretty straightforward.
Everything looks good.
I actually just have one. In your plans and layouts, do you have possibilities to be able to retain any of those nice big trees that are already there?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Most of them will probably go. Yeah,
Darn, that's too bad.
maybe the one in the back. We'll leave that one.
Maybe you can move them to my house.
Okay, there we go. We'll send them to you.
Well, sometimes it's just not feasible to work around them and keep them, but it's nice to do it if you possibly can. Okay. Any other questions, commissioners, for the Wheelers? Okay, seeing none, then we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone listening that would have public comment regarding this request? Sounds like somebody's trying.
Let me try to see. It's unmuting here. Let's see. Okay, I don't show anybody unmuted, and then I don't have any public comment that was emailed in.
Okay. Well, then seeing no other public comment, then we'll close that and come back to the commissioners. Do you have any questions or discussion regarding this request? No?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and entertain a motion on the request for the Wheelers one lot subdivision.
Recommend that we recommend to the City Council final approval of the Wheeler subdivision, 6100 West, 5700 South, with the condition that we do hold escrow for curb and gutter.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Prince. Do we have a second from anyone?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you, Wheelers. We appreciate your time.
Ew.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is not a public hearing. It is a request that we have for a drainage plan change from the Silver Saddles subdivision. Our Public Works Director has given us a very detailed memo that gives us the history of what's happened here. Commissioners, if you read the memo, you could see that this is a post-approval change. This subdivision has already been approved with the lots without this drainage plan, with the lots being graded to flow outward towards the street, which is the much more desirable way to drain a lot. But now, since it's changed hands or is in the process of changing hands, this new developer wants to change this plan and have it amended. So given that bit of history, I'm going to turn it over to Jared Hancock, our City Public Works Director, and let him fill us in on the details. Are you there, Jared?
I am. I think the memo is kind of explains everything. They had approval through the Planning Commission, the City Council. We had the pre-construction meeting. They're really ready to go, and the developer that got those approvals and that sold it or is selling it to Nelson Homes, and they are proposing this change. And I think I've explained to you, I don't recommend the change from a Public Works perspective, and have listed the reasons in that memo of why they just don't work very well for, we've had a few in the past and had troubles with them. And so that's that. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer them. I didn't really know I was presenting this, so sorry, I'm a little bit unprepared for that.
Well, I just wanted you to, verbalize basically what was in the memo. We've all read the memo. We've gone over it in detail. And
Madam Chair, may I make a comment just that might be helpful to the whole group?
who am I speaking to?
My name is Wade Budge. I represent Nielsen Homes, who's the developer that's acquired the site. And my
Okay,
address
Wade?
is Wade Budge, yes. And my address is 15 West South Temple, Salt Lake City.
Okay, let me tell you right now, I will allow one spokesperson. If that be you, that's fine, but I'm only going to allow one spokesperson to address this. Are you that designated person?
Thank you, I am, and it will be very brief.
Okay,
Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for your time tonight. We've evaluated and appreciate the comments Mr. Hancock put in his memo. It was in response to a letter we had sent in September, and we appreciate the detail that he put in there. What we would ask is that the commission delay any recommendation on this matter because we want to review some of the comments that were made in that memo with our engineering team. And we are intending to make some revisions based on the comments in that memo. So certainly it's the prerogative of this commission to move forward a recommendation up or down tonight. We would just ask that you table it till your next meeting because we anticipate that a lot of the items that have been raised can be addressed in a way that we think would be satisfactory, at least improve on the project. So that would be our request. And I'm sorry I didn't interrupt earlier, but we're that is what we want to do is we want to have the time to take this December 2nd memo and sit down with our development engineers to review it and to make some changes to our current request for an amendment.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Budge. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Madam.
So back to the commissioners, given that information.
I have,
Maybe
oh,
we
sorry.
can maybe we
And
can
I think
entertain a motion at this time.
So, Commissioner, if I could jump in real quick on that, I think as far as from the perspective of the request, table it from the developer, certainly we could decide to make a decision on it, but it's probably more effective use of our time to ferret out and kind of see everything at the planning commission level before it goes up to the city council. Because if you decide to move forward on it today, of course, it's a recommendation that's going to go up to the council anyway. And then they would be receiving different information perhaps than what we're seeing here. And so I think it would be more beneficial to the city council to get everything ferreted out and vetted at the planning commission level, which is our primary purpose, to see everything and recommendations. And so my view, based on that request, rather than pushing it forward and new information possibly come in right before the next council meeting, I would urge you to table it, and that way we can see everything and the planning commission can make its recommendation based on everything that the applicant wants to give us. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
So Brandon, can I ask you a question? If we table it, or excuse me, if we were to deny it, then they could appeal to the city council and bring new information. It wouldn't be that they would just have to come again towards the planning commission with a new idea of what they're wanting.
Well, and that's a good question too, because then you get into some of the technicalities. If you're going to deny this request, you're denying the request before you today. And so then technically speaking, I suppose you might be in a situation where they would then submit an additional request to amend that would be different than this one, and it would come back in front of you again. And so I think it's more effective use of your time to get a final, whatever that may be, request from the developer to amend, rather than, messing around with moving forward on this request, and then they come back in a month with an entirely different request, and then, which is similar, possibly amended to be different, and then you're looking at it all over again. So I think it's a little cleaner. That was a good point that you made there. I think it's a little cleaner where we get the request, whatever it is, and make one decision on it, rather than have multiple requests for amendment coming through.
And sorry, Mary, I just had a follow-up question to that. If we do table it, if we do it until next month, is that giving sufficient time for them to get the information they need and for us to have enough time to review it? Or should we put it out a couple of months so that there's more time? I just want to make sure that we're not rushed into making a decision and that Jared has enough time to adequately review what they bring forward to.
So and that's a good point. So I would think I would maybe let Jared speak to that. Like, how much time would he need to adequately put together something for us to review? And then based on that, maybe we could ask Mr. Budge if that's going to be enough time for them to be able to put it together before the next meeting, or if we need to bump it out. So I don't know, Jared, what kind of timing do you need to put together in addition to your, another memo or whatever you need to do?
So I would think if we're just talking about some changes to the drainage, Tracy and I could review that and get it turned around. I guess if there's more changes than that, or if there's some back and forth between our engineering and public works and their engineer, that's hard to say. But if everything was fairly simple and the changes straightforward, we could do a review certainly before the next planning commission. If it was fairly significant changes, it may go on longer than that.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing the developer probably would hope that we could get it on the next time around. And so I would say if you table it, put it on the next one. And if something comes up, there's going to have to be an understanding there that if there's more significant changes or back and forth, then it may get bumped again. But it sounds like you're safe to move it one meeting out and then keep it moving that way. Unless Mr. Bud, you have a different view on that.
No, Madam Chair and Mr. Richards, thank you. I agree with that. What we would commit to do is get any kind of revisions in by next Thursday. So that way there'd be enough time to still keep the next planning commission meeting, and understanding that if Mr. Hancock views the changes as needing more time, we could talk with him about that. But we anticipate that we could make our changes by next Thursday.
Okay.
So we could move it forward to the next planning commission meeting in January.
That would be ideal for us.
All right. Unless the things are incomplete, and then we won't hear it.
Correct. That makes sense.
Okay, commissioners?
I've got a question for Mr. Budge. Can you tell me what's the reason for proposing the rear lot drainage system? Is it a superior system than what you originally were approved on? Or what's your reasoning behind that?
Well, our reasoning is going to change, I think, after some of the comments, but I'll tell you what our reasoning was before. Our reasoning was before because lots 1 through 10 had a drainage system and lots 11 and 18 did not. Based on some of the points that were raised, we want to evaluate that entire design and whether it's going to be needed. And we'd like to just, before I speak out of turn, I'd like to sit down with our experts and evaluate that, because we certainly don't want the kinds of things that Mr. Hancock identified in his memo occurring. And so we want to make sure we've adequately addressed and anticipated that. I hope that at least in part answered part of your question, Commissioner, and we'll be able to address that in total at the next meeting.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say too, I really appreciate all of the work that Jared put into this memo. I thought it was very precise and helped me to understand what the concerns were. There was a lot of information in there, and I felt like that made what I was planning on doing tonight a lot easier. And I also appreciate Mr. Budge being willing to take those concerns into consideration and try to fix those so that there isn't a problem down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Prince. Okay, any other comments from the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, then let's entertain a motion on this request for a drainage plan change.
I'll motion that we table what are we calling it? The amended Silver Saddle subdivision until all pertinent information regarding these land drains is received, ideally by December 17th, with the idea that we would be able to have this come up again for Planning Commission January 14th at the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Prince to table this until our January 14th meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And we have a second from Commissioner Platt. So those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, seeing none, then this is tabled until next January. Mr. Budge, I'd like to thank you for your comments.
Appreciate all of your time. Thank you again.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. All right. Next item on our agenda is an approval for also an amended Quail Cove subdivision. This is not a public hearing. This was a subdivision that was approved. And Tracy has some visual for us. Will you present that for us, please, Tracy?
I will. So this is the original plat that got approved, recommended by the planning commission, approved by the council. And you'll notice right here at the end of this stub street, this street's long enough that we would have a temporary turnaround for fire apparatus. And so you can see that on the plat, there was an area that had already been carved out as being used for that temporary turnaround, and that area there gets certain improvements so that there's hard surface for the vehicle to use, and you can see that then encroaches onto the lots, the two lots at the end of the street. The developer, Nielsen Homes, came back and asked if they could get the plat changed so that it looked like this. And honestly, Public Works and Engineering were like, oh, we'd love to see that happen. Our initial review said, yes, we're in favor, but we don't see that you own this property. It still showed up as a different owner, which was K&L Development, Kevin Ivins and Larry Daly. And so we said, we can't really bring this to the planning commission without permission. And we did get that permission letter from Kevin Ivins, the owner of that K&L Development. And with that, we recommend that the plat actually get changed and the plat hasn't been signed or anything, but it was approved by the council. And so we would recommend that be allowed to change at this point. So before it gets signed and recorded.
Okay. Is there anyone here representing Quail Meadows Properties?
Yeah, it's Steve Bingham with Nielsen Homes.
Okay. Do you have an address, Steve?
Yep, home address 707 Wellington Drive in Kaysville.
Okay. Do you have any comments you'd like to share with us?
No, I thought Tracy did a great job explaining what it was. At the time, obviously, we got approvals on Quail Cove. We hadn't had the conversations or under contract on the Silver Saddle subdivision. Now that we've got that, as Tracy mentioned, it makes more sense to put that onto the undeveloped side, just so it's less of an impact to future homeowners.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Bingham?
I have a question, but I think I don't know if it would be Brandon that needs to answer this. As far as the permission, do we have to have permission from both Larry Daly and Kevin Ivins on that, or is only one authorized to sign? I just want to make sure we're okay on that.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure how the property's held, and so Mr. Bingham may need to speak to that, but whoever is owning it, so if it's a corporation or if it's a LLC, whoever's managing or authorized by that group to sign, individual owners, we'd need to have something from each owner signing it. So I'm not exactly sure how the ownership is held.
Mr. Richards, this is Steve Bingham. I can at least speak to what's happened on the other side. It's an LLC that owns it, and they had provided us information in signing our purchase agreement as to the managers. And so Kevin is the manager of that LLC. We could certainly follow up and provide to you that documentation, though, to show that he's got the proper authorities on behalf of the entity.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like if it's an LLC, it'd be a good idea for us just to have in the file just some verification that he's got authorization from the LLC to sign for it, and that would clear up any technicality there. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that input. Any other public comments regarding this? No, it's not a public hearing, so that doesn't apply. Commissioners, do you have any other discussion?
Makes sense.
Okay, then seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to, do we need to submit this to city council?
Yeah, but since we're,
City council?
yeah, we'll need to
Okay.
recommend.
So I would entertain a motion to recommend to city council.
I'll motion that we recommend approval of the amended Quail Cove subdivision, 3750 South, 5250 West, subject to verification that it's been approved by the authorized signer of the other property.
All right. Is there a second on that motion?
Second
I'll
that.
second.
Commissioner Platt, was that you?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Prince to recommend approval of this Quail Cove subdivision amendment. And it was seconded by Commissioner Platt. Those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, then we'll approve this and send it on to City Council for their approval. Thank you. All right. That is the end of our agenda items. We do have citizen open now for citizen comments. Anyone who's listening, if you would like to speak, we need you to unmute your microphone. Or I guess, Shauna, you have control of that, huh?
Yeah, so what I'd ask, if anybody actually wants to speak in public comment, if they could just type in the chat that they'd like to speak, I'll create a list and then go down that list. So I'll give people just a minute if they want to actually speak on public comment to type in that chat box so I can keep a list, and I'll call on you in that list. Okay, so I'm not currently seeing anybody in that chat, but what I'll do is I did have one emailed public comment come in. So I'll go ahead and read that. And then I'll watch for any chat to come up before we close. So this public comment is from Daryl Sheets. And he says, Dear Planning Commission, for over a year now, we have asked multiple times for consideration of rezoning our property from R1 to R2, and we are making no headway. The answer is consistently wait until the general plan is open and then the rezoning issue can be addressed. As the plan is open and we have filled out our survey, we would like consideration for rezoning in order to receive a preliminary approval for a 12-lot subdivision, and then go ahead with engineering for final approval as soon as possible. Waiting for the general plan to be finalized will put us over 2 years of waiting to even be considered for our small project. What steps can be taken so we can move forward with this project? Parcel number 155-25002. Approximate location is 3051 South, 5100 West. Respectfully, Daryl Sheets, RCAJ Adventures, LLC. And I did receive this beforehand, and I did ask Tracy if you could kind of put up a little map. And then if you guys have any questions, you guys can see the property that he's talking about. And I have spoke with Mr. Sheets multiple times in the office about his property. But just so everyone is aware, there's been no formal submission for a request for rezone in his property. And what he does ask is a multi-step process for this particular piece of property.
So
Okay.
This is the property. This is the very north end of our city limits up here, and then along 5100 West. This is what the land use map looks like right now. This is actually Rawson Ranch. It did get the land use changed to medium density and got rezoned for their subdivision 3 years ago or so, I guess. All of the other property is still in the low density land use, although it is covered with a agriculture protectionary overlay, but all the rest of this is a yellow color, which represents low density residential land use. And so, and then you start getting down here, you start getting the Quail Meadows Quail Estates, Quail Cove, was on they were on the original or on the land use map for medium density and have been rezoned and developed. So it is this piece up here in the corner of the city that he's talking about. So.
Okay. So it's currently under an ag protection zoning.
It's under an ag protection overlay, but the land use is low density and the zoning is also R1. So,
okay.
And without having a change in the land use map, it doesn't qualify for a rezone. And I think that's what he's saying. He said, you know, we've been waiting for something to happen to get the land use changed. And so that was what I was hearing in that request. So.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that. I would like to add here that Daryl and LaDon Sheets attached comments to their survey when they mailed it in. If you don't mind, I'd like to read that as well. And they say, we officially request that the 7.21 acre parcel, number 15,525 and 2, located at approximately 2800 South, 5100 West, be considered for rezoning to allow no less than half-acre residential lots. In order to create more usable parcel for the development, we additionally request that a small portion of the northeast corner, approximately 3/4 acre, of the adjoining parcel be merged into this parcel to create an approximate 8-acre parcel. Then they go on to say, with a regional lift station just down the road in Rawson Ranch subdivision, access to sewer, water, and gas under 5100 West, we feel this to be an appropriate request. Sincerely, Daryl and LaDon Sheets. That letter, they're asking for multiple things to happen, of which none of the Planning Commission doesn't have control over. So in response to this, I would just like to thank the Sheets for their letters. And we acknowledge that we've received both of them. And both of them will be taken into consideration as we move forward with the general plan modifications. And I would encourage the Sheets, if they're listening, to stay involved and get involved in our focus groups and in any planning that comes out, and make sure that they attend open houses. I don't know if they're on board tonight. But we do appreciate their comments. Commissioners, do you have any comments regarding this?
My only comment would be that this is the first I've heard of it when I got emailed these notes. So I don't really know why we're holding them up, other than they just need to do the process correctly. But I think the lift station, I know the Ross or Garf and Cami, there's some issues with the lift station, and that's probably got to be resolved before anything can happen.
Right. There's a lot going on in developing all of that ground that's out there, the old Rawson Ranch. So again, I just wanted to thank Daryl and LaDon Sheets and let them know that, yes, we've acknowledged receipt of both of their letters, and yes, we'll keep them in mind, and yes, we will take them into consideration as we move forward.
So as I understand it, do they even want to rezone, or do they just want to develop R1s there and put 12 lots on there?
No, the letter that was attached to their survey, they were asking for rezoning. And as we all know, we're not rezoning right now.
From R1 to R2.
Right.
It's not even available to do that anyways in the plan. So that's.
No, it's not even in our current future generalized use plan. So
okay,
there isn't any action that we can really take on it, but I do want to encourage the Sheet family to stay involved, and just want to let them know that we are aware of their requests, and we'll take it into consideration as we move on with the general plan modification. Are there any other public comments, Shauna, that you can see?
No, I haven't had any other public comment.
Okay. Well, is there any new business anyone needs to bring forward at this time?
Mary, I did receive a response back from one of the people that had asked to serve on the focus group, and they did receive an email about it, but they said that they haven't responded yet because they're trying to work their schedule out. It's just not a convenient time for people. So if you don't mind just letting us know what you find out when you reach out to Wasatch Front.
I will get hold of those people at WFR tomorrow and just let them know that 5 o'clock just isn't working out for any of us. And it needs to be 6:30 or 7 is my focal point.
My only thing, sorry, well, and I know this is kind of self-serving, but I wasn't aware what day they were going to have this on, and Fremont does have a concert that night that my daughter's performing in, and so the 5 o'clock time does work for me, and where I'm supposed to be over the committee, I don't know, I'd like to be involved, I guess, in what time they move that to so that I can try and coordinate around her. I also have a virtual piano recital for my other daughter that same night. It's just kind of a tricky, it's not all about me, but I definitely want to be a part of it, so.
Okay.
Maybe, Mary, maybe recommend that we flip-flop, that we do the commercial or the economic development on the 14th and Amanda's on the
15th.
On the 15th.
Okay.
Would that work, Amanda?
That would work for me as long as we're giving the people that are involved in that enough time that I wish we had gotten in touch with them a little bit sooner so that they could have set aside this time, because if we're really wanting input, then I think we have to take into consideration other people's schedules.
Yeah, Maddie sent this out on December 2nd.
Not to the people in the committee, I mean, to us, but I think of the community members that are wanting to work on this.
When did they
as of a couple of days, they did not know.
Oh, really? So they've only had it for a couple of days.
One of mine said they haven't received anything, and another person said that they did receive something, but it has to have been within the last few days that the other person did. So, and I know when I talked to Cindy about it, and Cindy's on here, I don't know if she wants to make a comment, not to put her on the spot, but she was going to reach out to the Wasatch Front Regional Council and find out. And from what I understand, they had said, well, some of these people will be in our next batch of emails that go out, but that was just a couple of days ago. So it's just not giving people enough time when you give them less than a week, especially during Christmas season. So.
Okay. I will talk with Maddie personally tomorrow morning, first thing, and I'll get back with you and let you know for sure, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
Sorry, one more time. I just wasn't sure because Nate, weren't you gonna chair one of those committees too? And I didn't see his name on there either. I'm not sure if we're communicating.
I was gonna do Parks and Recreation. I just haven't heard anything. Is there a date for Parks and Recreation? Mary?
Saw one on the 16th.
Of December?
Yeah, but they didn't have your name by it. They didn't have
yeah.
So can I chime in on that? This is Cindy.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
So I did not see a name on that either. And so I volunteered to chair the Parks and Recreation Committee. And she did follow up with an email and said that yes, I would chair that one, but I do not, it's just two of the committees did not have anybody on to chair them. So I volunteered to do Parks and Rec. So Nathan, you're more than welcome to do that. And
I'll be there with you. I'll just back you up. How's that sound? I mean, if these meetings are still at 5, it's going to be really rough for me to get home and even be a part of them. And that's been the problem for the other ones. So
right.
That's fine for me. And then I'll just be there to back you up. How's that sound?
That sounds great, but you should have got an email.
Okay. I'll look and see. What time is it at? And where is it at currently? Just so I know.
So it is on Thursday at 5 o'clock and it is a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
And actually, I'll forward the email that I got to you, and you can get it right now instead of having to check with her.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
Is there a city council meeting that same night on Thursday?
There is. This meeting is only from 5 to 6. The city council meeting, the pre-meeting starts at 6:30. So
I just, in case they try to bump it, I think they need to be aware that you're going to be tied up with city councils.
That's true. Absolutely, we are. that will be good to let them know if Mary's the one that's contacting them. So,
Okay. Well, and I'm happy to reach out too. I mean, I don't know if it would be more effective to have each of us that are chairing these committees, these subcommittees, you know, correspond with them directly so that we can try and be involved in what's going on. And maybe they could even give us the information for the people that are going to be on the subcommittees, and we can make sure that they're being made aware of this, just so that, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on right now. And I think that that might be most effective to make sure that everybody's being contacted in enough time to plan for it.
I agree. One thing they said was that we would get information. The only information I got is, here's the information for the open space and recreation focus group, and it's the Zoom meeting time. I would like to know who's going to be on the focus group. You know, are they going to conduct it, or are we going? Because there's no information.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like we've kind of been left out of the planning process of it.
I don't see Mary.
Mary.
Mary
I don't
dropped
see
off.
Mary on there either.
I think Mary dropped out.
Mary, are you hearing all this?
Just awkward silence. There she is.
But yes, I have reached out to Maddie, and I can reach out again, but it's probably better if just one person does that. Well, I don't know. I got results when I reached out, so.
I think that's a good idea. And Mary just texted me and said she lost her connection, and can we please ask Bryce to adjourn? So Bryce, it looks like you're up to bat, but nice. I think it's a good idea for us to each reach out to them.
Actually, I just got back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Dang it, I wanted to be done.
Oh, okay. Well, we can still be done.
Just kidding.
Anything I can connect.
Mary,
So-
Amanda can probably fill you in on what we just talked about then, about the meetings on next week.
Okay, I'll talk to you, Amanda, personally, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Okay, any other business, people? Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn our commission meeting.
Is there a
I'll
second? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wilcox and a second from Amanda Prince to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
See y'all later.
Thanks.
See ya. Have a Merry Christmas if I don't see you or hear from you.